I'm rolling.
Okay. Good to go, Bobbie.
Go, Bobbie.
Rock, welcome to Dallas.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're very, very honored to have you here, and we thank you for taking time out of your busy... Hello?
Plane, the airplane's killing.
Oh, okay.
Started right then.
Well, we were off to a good start.
That was probably Southwest Airlines going to Love Field.
Yeah, I think that was the first plane of the day. Of course, they wait till we're rolling there. Ready, Patrick?
Clear?
Your time codes are synced?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay. Roll.
Good.
Rock, welcome to Dallas.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come in and visit with us.
Oh, thank you. No problem.
Do I understand that your grandfather used to live in Dallas?
My grandfather, my grandmother, I used to live in Dallas when I was a kid as well. My dad, my mom, everybody. And that was back when my grandfather, as well as my dad, was wrestling for for Fritz von Erich at that time. And I used to go down as a little kid to the Sportatorium and get popcorn and tacos and spill them everywhere, make a whole bunch of noise.
And so that was where you got kind of the wrestling thing going, huh?
Yeah, basically because I grew up in the business. And I was always kept very close to the business in terms of always going with my dad to all the arenas, basically across the country, and a lot of them here in Texas, and always being around the business.
You went to the University of Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a degree in criminology.
Right.
Very interesting. What were you planning to do at that point?
Well, it's funny. I figured I'd been in trouble so many times with the law, so it might be good if I knew the law inside and out. And originally I wanted to work for the Secret Service. And when I was studying down at Miami, by the time the end of my junior year came around, my plans had actually shifted. But at that time I was actually too late, so I still went ahead and got the degree in criminology anyway.
Do you sometimes, in your silent, reflective moments, Rock, do you sometimes just think, I can't believe here I am, this big movie star? You see yourself on the screen starring in movies?
In the rare, silent, reflective moments I have, yeah, absolutely. Even in the loud, ridiculously vocal moments I have, I think that all the time. Because I never fathomed this. I never imagined that I'd be in this position. I never thought that I would be making the money I'm making movies that I'm making, doing what I'm doing. I never ever thought that, honestly. I always thought that, like 7 years ago, that my main goal was just to make more than $300 a week. And that was Canadian money when I was up in Canada. So that's the only thing I wanted to do when I got into wrestling. I got into wrestling not necessarily to become a world champion or become The Rock, because that wasn't even my name when I got into wrestling. I just wanted to entertain the fans. And so that mindset and mentality I carried over into film. And it's the exact same thing now with acting. It's just to entertain the audiences and work with good actors, work with really good directors as well.
The Scorpion King was such a major hit worldwide. Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you. And now you have The Rundown. Are you feeling more pressure with The Rundown than you did with The Scorpion King?
No, not necessarily. And I always just think that pressure is what you allow it to be. And some people work great under extreme amounts of pressure and placing that pressure on them. And I'm just really excited, and there's a high level of anticipation and excitement with The Rundown. The Scorpion King was great, but I just wanted to make a movie that had more broad comedy in it, contemporary, where I could look good, look nice and fine in a suit.
In The Rundown, it's such an action, it's nonstop action almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, for your director, Peter Berg, who I know as an actor, turned director, but if I didn't know it was Peter Berg, I would have thought it was a Michael Bay picture. I mean, it has
that's a great compliment.
It has a Michael Bay, split frame editing, the whole thing,
Sure.
But anyway, I digress. It's such action, and you are involved in most of it. When, for instance, you're hanging from the rope upside down and the monkeys are attacking and everything, how much of that did you actually have to go through?
Oh, everything. Yeah, everything.
No double to do?
No. Well, I figure if there's going to be a scene, and when I read the scene where the monkeys attack us and actually have their way with me in a loving way, if you know what I mean, I thought, well, I can't get my double to do that. I've had a lot of loving over the years, Bobbie, and I want some monkey loving. So that was me, and I basically did all my own stunts with the exception of 2 in the movie, and which happened to be 2 of the biggest, most dangerous stunts. And one of the stunts, my stunt double actually shattered his ankle. And he's actually my cousin as well as family. So because he's family, I was like, whew, good. Now I don't have to pay him.
He's still speaking to you?
Yeah, no. He's great. He's great. He didn't speak to me for a little while because after when he shattered it, like we all knew, then I was like, okay, well, can you move over about 10 feet so you can get out of the frame so we can continue the shot? He didn't like that. I don't know why.
The scene where you're rolling down this mountain and it goes on and on.
That was him.
That was your cousin.
Mm-hmm. That was him. And with that stunt was really an amazing stunt, and they wanted to do something that was breathtaking. Andy Chang, the stunt coordinator, wanted to do a stunt that was amazing, different, breathtaking, real, not where anybody's flying through the air on wires or anything like that. So he found the side of this mountain in Hawaii. And when we scouted it and I went and I actually walked the entire distance up the mountain, and it was literally probably, I don't know, 200-300 feet down. And my cousin, he just took a running start, he patted himself in the suit and just whoosh, went. And Sean William Scott double, on that particular stunt, the very first flip that he did, within probably 10 feet, he knocked himself out and continued it, knocked out, cold. We thought he was dead. But he wasn't, luckily.
And making movies is fun, they say.
Making movies is fun, it's so glamorous. It's great.
Working with Christopher Walken, tell me the very first scene you had with Chris Walken, what that was like.
The very first scene I had with Christopher Walken was a scene where I have to go to him basically out of respect because it's his town, and I go to see him and I basically tell him what I'm going to do. There's someone who is in his town, and I'm going to retrieve this someone who happens to be Sean William Scott and take him out. And he goes into a very Christopher Walken-like monologue, which is fantastic. And I pay him the money, and that was about it. But Chris obviously has this amazing presence, and not only on camera but off as well. And he could not have been a nicer guy. He's a sweetheart. He helped me tremendously. And during that scene, he would pull me aside and try this and try that. I noticed you said this. Try and say it like this. And he was really. He was just really cool. And a guy like that in his position, who does so many movies, for him to take out the time and help me and really put his heart and soul into his character for this film, like he does, by the way, for every movie. But you know, the things he was saying, the monologues he would deliver in the movie, really priceless and special. Great guy.
And I think he doesn't realize how funny he is, and that's what makes it so funny.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I think what makes Chris funny, what makes Christopher Walken funny, is his reputation, obviously, of being who he is. And he has that rhythm, the way he talks, and he really does not try to be funny. So when you don't try and be funny, and you're confident in what you're doing, I mean, he comes across as hilarious. It's great.
Rock, I understand that there was some consideration about filming in Brazil, which is the setting.
Yeah.
And your people went down there to scout it, and they didn't exactly receive the welcome wagon warming, did they?
No. They went down there, Peter Berg, Kevin Misher, the other producers, they all went down there. Peter Berg, and this is a good quality about Peter, is that he wanted authentic shots in this movie. And if we were going to make a movie about being in the Amazon, well, we're going to go to the Amazon. So I was like, okay. So they went, and they were robbed at gunpoint with these guys who had machine guns. And so by all accounts, they're very, very lucky, and by all accounts, they should be dead, because they're in the middle of the Amazon jungle at a remote location that nobody's ever been to, and just scouting, and they get robbed. They get robbed of thousands of dollars in cash, thousands and thousands of dollars of equipment. But here's the funny thing about this, and we could say it now that everybody came back alive, is they were robbed by a guy who had a red Speedo, and he was really, really fat. And he had this big fat belly hanging over this red Speedo, and he had flip-flops on, and he had this flak jacket with glasses, spoke no English. I mean, if you're going to get robbed, at least it'd be cool if you got robbed by somebody who was in shape and just looked the part. But don't wear a Speedo and let your belly hang over the Speedo. That's not, that's not good.
If you put that in a movie, nobody would believe it.
Nobody would believe it. Nobody would believe it happened. Nobody would believe it happened. But I give those guys credit for actually coming back and telling that story. Because if it were me, I would have come back and said, you're not going to believe it. But these guys who are trained in the art of war, and they were 6'10", and they were all 400 pounds, and they were monsters. And they're part of a tribe that nobody ever knows about, and they're down there. They robbed me. And I would have said I would have killed a couple too. I killed a couple before I left. I broke their necks with my bare hands.
Very quickly, we just have a minute or so left, Rock, but I do want to ask you, because this sounds fascinating to me, that are you actually going to, or you're thinking about doing the story of King Kamehameha?
Absolutely. I'm going to. And it's with Sony, Columbia Pictures, and they've really done a great job of getting behind the project. And the writer, Greg Poirier, has done a great job, and he's writing diligently now. It's a beautiful story. Amazingly enough, it's never been told, and it happened only a couple of hundred years ago. And here's a guy who was essentially the Braveheart of Hawaii, who united all the islands. And it being part of the United States, it's just a beautiful story, and I can't wait to tell it. And of course, growing up in Hawaii, I'm very passionate about the project, and yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I can't either, because I love Hawaii, and I've been there many, many times. I love the culture, so I'll be lined up in first place for that one.
Oh, I appreciate
Meanwhile, the rundown, very entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
And very well done.
Oh, glad you liked it.
And congratulations to all of you, and thanks again for
Thank
coming.
you, Bobbie. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a very good interview. Thank you.